sit down with me. There we go. Thank you so much for just taking the time to sit here with me for this hour. Hopefully, I'm sure we're not going to take up the full hour, but of course, I want to make sure that with this recording and also with this virtual visit, that is worthwhile, and also that I'll be able to answer at least like a general question. And of course, I'll get into more details as the slideshow goes over. But of course, I'll go off script. So first things first that I always say, LSU itself. First thing I forgot to mention myself. So my name is Christian DeJesus. I am one of the admission counselor as well as the retention counselor. So not only that I recruit students to come to LSU, but I also work with the students that I recruit and also help them out through their freshman year at LSU. So typically you don't really hear that as much from admission counselors, but not only that we help you out through the admission process, but we also help you out making that transition from your first year to your second year. So with LSU itself, we are known, of course, pretty much nationally now, since of course us winning a national championship. But one thing that overlaps our sports is the fact that with our academics itself. So with LSU itself, we are amongst the elite 1% within the nation itself. There's just under 5,000 universities in the state, well, in the United States itself, and we are one of 50 schools that's a flagship institution. So each state has one university that is a flagship institution. So here at LSU, we're a flagship institution for the state of Louisiana. Um, with us calling ourselves the elite 1% is the fact that we are one of 22 universities that has a land, sea, and space grant research for our faculty and our students itself. So what that means really is the fact that if you are interested in research, this is pretty much definitely the school that you have to come to. Reason being is the fact that we have many students that come to LSU to work with our faculty member. We have faculty members that's coming from Ivy League institution, one of the most prestigious universities, and they decided to come here to LSU to not only do some research here, but also work with our students. With us being a flagship, not only that we help out within our community, but we also help out within the state and also on a national level. So, of course, with this whole COVID situation, we have faculty members that are also working on many things as far as finding out vaccinations or just helping out students on getting tested and just diagnosing exactly about COVID-19 itself. So that's what our faculty members are doing currently. One Another thing with our institution itself, we have over 330 academic programs. So not going to name every single one of them, of course, but more than likely, if you have a interest in mind as far as a major goes, of course, we'll more likely will have it. Typically, our top majors that many students usually come in here for is our engineering program, our agriculture agriculture program, business program, as well as pretty much our kinesiology majors, which is also known for it can be a widespread of basically you want to go into sports management or if you want to go to sports administration or if you just want to work as a within the pre-athletic training itself. So we have that available for our students itself. Um, Another interesting thing about LSU is the fact that we are one of 8 institutions that have a medical school, a dental school, a law school, as well as a MBA program for our students. So we're one of 8 that. Oh, also, I'm sorry, a veterinarian school. I can't miss that one out. So that's one of the special things about LSU is the fact that if you are interested in those programs, you are able to, of course, complete that while you're at LSU. Also, one of the things about our law school itself is the fact that students are able to complete their law degree within 6 years. So that's typically unheard of, but of course we have it here at LSU, and that's one of the major things that attracts students to come to our institution. So, of course, everybody want to talk about money. Why should I even go to LSU, especially if I'm coming from out of state? Why in the world will I'm coming from the Midwest? I'm coming from Illinois, and why would I come all the way down to the South? don't worry, I also had that question too, especially when I decided to work at LSU. I'm originally from Pennsylvania, so I came down to LSU. Of course, I did not graduate from LSU, but of course, me working for LSU and also um, a graduate student as well. So not only that I am a graduate student within LSU, but I'm also working full time as a employee at LSU. So great thing about LSU is, of course, is the money. So we have over $1 billion when it comes down to financial aid and scholarship. So with our students itself that's coming from out of state, we always try to say that we treat our out of state students as if you guys are our in state students. This is what you call like Southern hospitality at its finest. And the reason being is because we're not neglecting our in-state students. It's because of the fact that our in-state students already have the state fundings and the amount of scholarships that you can only imagine. So that's where we pretty much help our out-of-state students in order for them to come to LSU to have that opportunity. With our students itself, whenever you hear about higher grad rate, what we're talking about post-secondary education. So yes, I understand you're coming in as an undergrad, but we're already talking about grad school once you're stepping foot on LSU campus, because we have a lot of students that we have students that graduate from LSU that are admitted at one of the prestigious like colleges around the nation itself. So we do have students that will be accepted to Harvard or Yale, University of Cal. So we have many students that go to those universities because of the value of an LSU degree. So, so for particularly my business majors, ROI, so return on investment. So I'm going to give you guys a little bit of business course right now. So return on investment. So basically, if you invest into LSU, of course, the return on investment is very high. We had a study within our nation itself across all universities about the return of investment for our students. So basically, how much money are you putting into the university and how much are you receiving as far as earnings within your job salary itself? With LSU, we are ranked number one in the SEC for return on investments, and we're also ranked number 15 in the nation. So we're ahead of University of Michigan. We're ahead of University of North Carolina. I know being recorded, so I don't want to talk about other universities, but I'm just kind of like just giving you a gist on pretty much the value of an LSU degree. It will go a long, long way. I'm telling you. Me personally, I'll catch a flight back home to PA wearing an LSU gear. First thing that somebody will tell me is "Go Tigers!" No matter where I go to, if I'm wearing that purple and gold, you always hear "Go Tigers!" So that's one of the biggest. That's one of the great cultures, especially here at LSU, is the fact that not only that they love their institution, but they love the state of Louisiana. So higher yearly earnings. So just like how I mentioned before, with an LSU degree itself, most of our students will receive at least $15,000 more than the average student that graduate from the college. I can tell you this. I can tell you the university that I graduated from, and you'll probably never heard of it, and it's okay. I'm not going to name that school, but with an LSU degree, of course, it's going to be nationally known on a resume. So no one's ever going to know what school I graduated from, especially if I put it down on a resume and I have to explain to them exactly where I graduated from. But with an LSU degree, it pretty much just tells the story as it is. So being connected on campus, that's one of the greatest things about being connected on campus. One of the things that we always talk about is yes, we have about 35,000 students on our campus, but our student to faculty ratio is 20-1, which is typically unheard of. Most of the time, you'll hear universities that will be like at 30-1 or 40-1, but we're at 20-1. Me just being transparent as I always am, because I always want to make sure that if you decide to invest into LSU, that I'm pretty much being transparent. So within your freshman year, typically your math class, your English class, or if not, your general science courses, you will be in a classroom with about 50 to 100 students. But then, of course, as you as you continue on the journey as far as your college career, of course, the classroom size will be a lot more smaller and more so catered towards you. So always remember that. And I'm not gonna lie to you, that's typically like that for most universities, especially a big school like LSU. You'll typically hear that a lot. Within our advising itself, you'll be advised from day one. You'll pretty much will be advised. So once you decide like, hey, I'm going to LSU, once you put in that deposit and once you start off orientation, boom, just like that, you already have an advisor, and pretty much prior to you even come stepping foot on campus, you're already being advised prior to it. So that's pretty much how dedicated we are to our students when it comes down to coming into LSU. Of course, like I said, we mean a lot of business while we're here at LSU, but at the same time, we want to make sure that you get all the experience as possible. One of the greatest things that our president always mentioned is the fact that he'd rather have a student graduating from LSU with an average of a B plus than that invest into LSU, that pretty much joined many different clubs and organizations, that took on internship opportunity, than a student that has an A and just stayed in the library the whole time. So that kind of tells you what we're about at LSU. It's more than just in the classroom. It's outside the classroom of how much of an impact that you make. We're really big on definitely serving back to our community itself. So always remember that. Now, with the clubs and organization, I always say that there's always a community within the community itself. We have over 450 clubs and organizations. I always say that there's no such thing as a club or organization that you cannot fit in. We have many different clubs and organization. We have an anime club. We have a chess club. We have many different clubs. Harry Potter club. Or if not, if you decide that, hey, there's a particular club that's not available to me, what's going on? You can easily create a club and organization. All you just need to do is just create the club, have at least like a group member, um, write a mission statement, and then you just need 50 people to sign off stating that the club and organization can be approved, and then you just send it to the board. Literally, think about it: 35,000 people, only 50 people to sign. That's very easy. Trust me. So now the applying process. So this is why I always try to tell students, you can completely ignore everything that I just said. You can probably fall asleep while watching this video, but this is the part where I want you to definitely write things down. December 15th, it's our priority decision deadline. That basically means if once you apply to LSU, once you submit your application prior to December 15th, you will not only have a seat at LSU, but you will also be considered for all of our scholarships. Anything after December 16th, granted, you will still have a seat, but as far as scholarship, it's very slim. This is me just being very transparent. For me, I just want to make sure that you, with all this information that I'm providing for you, but also get an opportunity to meet with me, whether if it's virtual, in person, or however. I want to make sure that if you are set in stone as far as applying to LSU, then I want to make sure that you're applying before December 15th to at least be considered for scholarship opportunities. Um, I always, of course, like I mentioned before, the your chances of getting a scholarship is very slim if it's after December 15th. So let's just say February 1st comes up. Let's just say, hey, you know, all of a sudden you went to sleep and you woke up the next day and you just said, you know what, I want to be a Tiger. I want to be an LSU Tiger. It's okay. You have February 1st to decide to apply here. We will be guaranteed a seat at LSU if you've been admitted prior to February 1st. Anything after, then of course, then we will then have to place you on a waiting list, which is something that I always say that happens quite often because our class is growing every single year. But I definitely don't want you to miss out on the February 1st if you miss out on December 15th. So February 1st, that's the next deadline. Anything after, of course, May 1st, of course, is the National Signing Day. So that's where you make your final decision on which institution that you want to go into. You will have your financial aid packet. You will have your scholarship awards, all that already prepared for you before you make that decision itself. So that is one thing that I always want to mention to students, especially if you're about to make your final decision, especially, and believe it or not, if you're really thinking about LSU, I always say still get in contact with me if you're going to make that final decision, because for me personally, I want to make sure that when you're going to LSU, that you're not only coming here for a great experience, but you're also getting your money's worth while you're here as well. I'm the type of person that I'm big on college access. And if I see that you have a full ride at another institution, but you really want to be at LSU, I'm not going to lie to you. I'm going to tell you, you should go to that school that gives you that full ride, because you may not get that opportunity ever. So that's how transparent I am. That's how much I care about students when it comes down to college access. So we're exclusively available on the Common app. So always remember that. This part itself, I'm just going to leave it there for like quite a few seconds, just because I'm going to go more in details about that. This one right here, I'm gonna touch a little bit about this one. So we always say, so for LSU itself, we go based off a holistic review. Many people always have speculation about holistic review. It's like one of those things like, hey, I have this GPA, I have this score. Um, it may be higher than another person, and how in the world that person got in, but I didn't. So here's here's some of the things that I'm just going to talk about, and then I'll get into nitty gritty things. So as far as the middle ground, so 50% of our students typically have, so it's like, so think about it as a bell curve. So 50% of our students receive an ACT score of a 23 to a 28, SAT 1130 to 1320, GPA 3.4, 4.0. So that's on the 50% scale. On the left-hand side now, this is like more so on the lower tier. We will still accept students that have a 22, 21, 20, 19, 18, depending on the situation. That's where your GPA comes into play. So we can still, so let's just say you have a high ACT score but a low GPA. We can still work with you on that. Vice versa. If you have a 3.3, 2, 1, 3.0, but then have a high ACT score, we can still work with you. Or if you have both at the same time, 3.0, 18, we can still work with you. We can still admit you. Of course, on the other side, you already know anything higher than 28, 13, 20, you get the gist. So, like I said, I'm gonna jump into this a little bit more. I'm just keeping this slide in just so that you can actually like pause it or anything. So this is the part where I'm mainly going to talk about the holistic review and how we review an application. So I totally understand. Well, we all understand what's going on right now with the pandemic. And about test scores. Currently at LSU, we are still in the works of being test optional. We are at least 95 to 99.1% chance that we will be test optional, but please do not go around and tell people, oh my goodness, LSU are test optional. This is it. This is my chance. I would say, please pause, please rewind. Don't say it. Reason why is because of the fact that we will send out a mass email once we receive a confirmation if we are test optional. Like I said, I always say if, because like I said, I did not say we are. So, so just to jump into things. So I'm gonna talk through the holistic review as if we are not test optional, and then just bear with me, because once we are, if we do decide to be test optional, then of course I'll definitely give you guys a lot of insight on it the next go around, or if you have any questions, because we will definitely put a lot of details about our holistic review and how we review our application itself. So high school transcript, that's like the grand jewel of everything. We definitely look into your transcript, because what we always say in our office is a high school transcript will tell a story. It will tell a lot of things about you. Letter recommendation, of course, that's really important. We require at least 2 letter recommendation. It can be from a teacher, mentor, coach, uh, taekwondo instructor, someone that knows you inside and outside of the classroom. Of course, we still look into consideration of your test score, but that, as you can see with the recommendation letter and the test score, you see how the circles are almost just as similar. So that's what we're talking about when we review our application. Achievements and talent and potential. That is something that, this is where I always say that this is a time for you not to be humbled. This is a time for you to brag about yourself. So if you've been in the chess club, if you've been in student government, if you volunteer at a nearby park, or if you volunteer for your community, if you work at TJ Maxx, or if you work at a Ross, naming places that I go shopping at and the stores that I like to go to. But those are prime examples of things that we want you to put down. So, and the reason being is because prime example that I can give you, you can be a 3.2, 3.2. You can have a 3.2 GPA. Let's just say ACT score is a 20. Let's just say SAT score is at least like 1100. That itself, if you're working a full-time job or if you're babysitting, that itself kind of pretty much tells us a story that you're balancing not only your work life but also high school itself. So then right there it shows us that when you come to campus, you can easily, now that you're on campus, or you're at the institution at LSU, we know that you can balance being part of an organization and also balancing out your schoolwork. So those are things that we definitely see. Also, I know a lot of times many students are always discouraged about taking AP classes, and they receive a C in the class. The thing about us is the fact that if we see, we look at your transcript from, of course, your freshman year, your sophomore year, and your junior year. If we see you taking AP credit course, or if you're taking an IB course or anything to that nature, or honors, that right there kind of shows us that you're just willing to give yourself a challenge, and that's what we want to see. We want to see you challenge yourself. Even though you have a C, we see that as a great thing on our eyes, because we know that you're not afraid to jump in and take on that challenge yourself. So those are some of the things that we will see. And of course, a lot of the students will say like, oh no, I got a C in AP in my AP class, and it's deteriorating my GPA. We don't see that as you're deteriorating your GPA. We see that as you're actually preparing yourself mentally, not to be prepared for college itself, and that's what we want to see. So always keep that in mind. I always say anything that you have done throughout your high school journey, please put that down. Even if you receive perfect attendance award, that also counts as well, because it shows that you will show up to class, even if it's mandatory or if it's not mandatory. So always remember that. So right here, I know I mentioned about scholarships. Well, not scholarships, but about LSU, about with some things about scholarships. But of course, just like how I mentioned before, $1 billion is offered with scholarships and aid. We also, with TOPS itself, that's more so of our in-state students, merit-based scholarship, need-based scholarship, and of course, mainly for our out-of-state students, we have a scholarship that's called STAMPS, which is available for students that can receive up to $22,000 up to a full ride here at LSU. So always keep that in mind, that we do have scholarship opportunity for our out-of-state students. Our big thing is that we always care about our out-of-state students because of the fact that you guys are willing to take a chance with us to come down to LSU itself. So enough of me talking. This is where I list out my contact information. Biggest thing that I always talk to students about when it comes down to contacting me is, if you contact the admissions office, the admissions at lsu.edu, more than likely you probably will not receive an email back from us within 2 to 3 days. And that's because, of course, we have a consistent amount of emails that comes to that email. It is best for you to just email me personally. And the reason why I state that is because of the fact that I will be the one that will be reviewing your application itself. So with our application, it's always reviewed twice, no matter what. So it's never just me and then your decision is final. It goes to me, and then it'll go to our associates, or if not, our director of admissions to make that approval. So basically, if I review your application and I say, "Yep, GPA looks great," letter of recommendation looks great. Wow, you've been a part of these organizations, you've been a part of this club or things of that nature, then yes, you have my approval to get into LSU. If my directors say, "Yep, GPA is great, everything looks great," yes, I also will like that student to be admitted. Boom, you will then receive a nice little email from us, and also a letter from the mail stating that you've been admitted. And that's pretty much how it works. It's like that for every single one of our students, no matter what. This is another thing that I also want to keep you guys in mind, is the fact that when we make our decision, it will take a little bit longer than other universities. And like I mentioned before, we review our application. We literally read every single thing that's there on your application itself. So always remember that. We will, me personally, and the whole office, we will start reviewing applications starting next week to like end of September, and our decision will be released towards the middle and the end of October. That'll be the first wave that'll come out. All of our letters come out typically every Thursday. Um, and not only that, but there's also moments, believe it or not, where we will have so many letters to send out to our students to the point that the mailing services will have to tell us like, hey, you have to wait until next week to send these off because we have too many letters to be sending out. So always keep that in mind as well. You will definitely receive an email prior to your letter at the mail. So always remember that. So you will definitely receive an email. I always say just checking your email. You will definitely receive an email stating that, hey, there's been an update on your application. That's where basically is either a decision that's been made, or if not, basically there's maybe some things that we need to see on your application. For me personally, I do not deny a student right away. I always try to work with you at the very, very beginning. So if I get your application early as possible, and if there's something that I need you to improve on, I will personally email you and say like, hey, I'm going to have to see that GPA go up towards like your middle of your senior year, or hey, is it possible that I'm still talking about as if we are not test optional. Hey, I probably need you to retake the SAT score, or hey, are you missing any organizations because I saw on your application you wrote this down but you didn't write this down on your like personal essay. Another thing as well is a personal essay that's optional, but typically if I say if it's optional, then I say definitely it's required. Why not do it? You definitely you're competing with other students, so definitely try to be the person that stands out. I'm just trying to make sure I hit every end that I possibly can. Oh, one last thing before everything's all said and done is if you are admitted to LSU, but if I see that there's an improvement that you can make or a scholarship opportunity that you may be missing out on, and I just need another information, I will also let you know about that as well. So if you've been admitted, and if I see like, oh man, this person is just like 10 points short or 2 points short of a scholarship, I will definitely just shoot you an email right away and just say like, hey, is it possible that you can retake the test? Or hey, is it possible that your GPA needs to be a little bit higher? Can you send in your midterm grades so that we can definitely beef up your application so that you can be consider a scholarship opportunity. So always remember that. Also, if you don't hear nothing back from me, that means you're fine. So that's another thing as well. So always remember that. I always keep in contact. Like I said, my contact information is on the right hand side. That number that you see, it's also available. That number itself is available for texting, so you can text me at any time. I always say this. Typically, if you text me after 7, I probably won't reply back. If you text me on the weekend, it's not stating that I am busy. It's because I'm watching my Eagles playing their game. So that's another reason why. So other than that, also like I said, make sure you just put in your first name, your last name, and then also the school that you're coming from. And then, of course, I'll answer those questions for you. Um, so that is my time. I really appreciate appreciate you all being here. And of course, if there's any questions or concerns, feel free to contact me.